I asked you guys to send me questions that I'll answer in this video. Well, you guys did, and in this video I'll attempt to answer all of those questions. So let's jump right into it.
Let's start with the first question. The first question is from Simon. Simon says, my mixer is not having aux, but it is having the EFX. Can I use the EFX for stage monitors?
All right, Simon, EFX sends are technically auxiliary sends, and the only issue is that you want your monitor sends to be pre-fader and not post-fader, but EFX are post-fader sends. So if that's the only option you have, then you can use it. The only thing is that you have to compensate for when you make any fader movements in your channel or the signal that has been sent to the EFX send or the monitor. You have to compensate for it using the EFX send knob so that you can have a consistent mix for your musicians on stage.
The next question is from All in One Channel. Can we give active speakers to group out in the mixer?
I don't quite understand what you mean, but I will make some assumptions. So I believe you're asking if I can connect an active speaker to a group out, right? The answer is yes. You can actually connect any form of speaker to any form of output.
Fidel says, all these various outputs, how do you connect them to an amplifier and how many amps will be needed?
Okay, all right, Fidel, you can check my video on how to connect a mixing console to a power amplifier. I'll put a link to it in the description. And about how many amplifiers you need, I think that totally depends on your setup and the number of speakers that you have.
All right, when I asked you guys to send me questions, I think Joshua took it kind of personal because you actually dropped 5 questions in one. Well, let's start with the first one. What is mono used for in a console and how do I use it to boost my live sound?
But your mono output is just basically your stereo left and stereo right summed together. Basically, mono are used for subwoofers, and you can actually use them for anything. Anything you can use your main output for, you can use mono output for it as well.
How do I record live sound in a console with a computer?
It's interesting that you asked that question because that video is in the works. I'm already working on that video, and in a couple of days I should upload that video.
The next, how do I use aux in my mixing console?
Well, I have an entire video dedicated to using auxiliaries to send signals to stage monitors. Everything about auxiliaries you'll find in that video. I'll link it in the description.
My backup singers always complain they can't hear themselves if the keyboard is on. How do I resolve this issue?
I think the problem you have here is that the monitor mix is not well balanced. Also, I think I still covered a couple of tips that you can use to resolve this kind of issues in the video I just talked about, how to use auxiliaries to send signals to stage monitors. Again, check it out, link is in the description.
Number 5, in a mixing console, channels 17 to 24 are used for what, please?
Okay, I'm assuming you're talking of the stereo channels. Channels 17 to 24, they are stereo channels. These are used to send signals from maybe stereo devices like keyboards or music playback devices and all of that. Some of them can also be used as mono channels. Check out my video on my tutorial video on the Yamaha MG24/14FX, the part 2 where I covered the back panel. I actually did talked very well about what the stereo channels are being used for.
And the last question from Joshua says, what is phantom power and when do I use it?
Phantom power is 48 volt DC that a mixer or an audio interface can supply to an input device like a condenser microphone or an active DI boxes. These devices, like the condenser microphones, they require this phantom power for them to operate. It powers the circuitry inside for sounds to be able to come out. So it's just, I think it's a very good stuff for you to actually supply power to your input device and also to be able to get audio from that device off of one cable.
All right, here's a question from Michael. Hello, sir. Please, is it possible to use subgroups as a monitor speaker?
If it's possible, the answer is yes. You can connect anything to anything. I think the appropriate question should be, is it right or is it appropriate? The answer is no, because when you connect a subgroup to your monitor speaker, you can't get a separate mix in the monitor speaker from your main mix, because levels of the input devices or your audio that has been sent to the monitor using subgroup, you control it with your fader, and that's what you use to control the levels sent to your main mix. You can't separate them. So use auxiliary to send signals to stage monitors, pre-fader auxiliaries.
This one's from Miracle. Sir, can you recommend the best settings for lead vocal and choir using analog mixer?
I think the first thing I advise generally is to use the right microphone. You have to use a cardioid microphone, even if you're using dynamic or a condenser microphone. It should be cardioid, meaning it should be directional mic, so that it can pick your singer's voice and then reject other background noise. And then secondly, microphone technique, handling technique, very important. Singers should be able to place the microphone very well close to their mouth and not want to place the microphone far away. And then for the mixer settings, the first thing I do is to use the high pass filter. There's no low end needed from the vocals. and so you want to first of all take that out if it's possible. So if you have a high pass filter, even if it's fixed or variable, or it's a variable high pass filter, you should engage it. If you have a variable high pass filter, that's even better, because I usually crank it up to about 150 hertz and sometimes up to 200 hertz for female singers. And then you want to take out some of the low end, your low shelf. You want to bring that down. So I think if you're able to get those, then it's a good place to start.
This one's from Daniel. Good evening, Kelvin. You have really impacted me a lot since I came across your videos. I have really improved and my understanding. Thanks. Well, you're welcome. My question is, I have a DBS compressor in my church. What source of sound or instrument will be best to be compressed, and how best will it be done? Thanks once again.
That's a very good question, because a lot of instruments can actually benefit from compression. Well, the sun is crazy right now though, but I would advise that since you're using a DBS compressor, and DBS compressors, a couple of them I know, they have limited channels, and so you can group a couple of your signals and compress them as a group. So group your vocals first and compress them as a group, and then group your drums and compress them as a group. I think if you have just 2 channels, you can actually do that for the groups of vocals and drums. These are the 2 instruments that have lots of dynamic range, so they will benefit a lot from compression. So to do that, just check out my videos on how to use groups in a mixing console. I'll link it in the description, and then I've actually covered a couple of ways you can do that.
And finally, here's a question from Chris. Good morning, Kelvin. I'm having trouble with the bass and kick, balancing them. They are too heavy and bring them down too. Wow. I don't have a DI box for bass.
First of all, I would advise that you use a DI box for your bass guitar, because what that does is that it converts the high impedance unbalanced output of your guitar to a low impedance balanced output, which matches the low impedance balanced input of your mixing console, and that will significantly improve your bass guitar sound. And the issue you have with your low end is a very broad issue, because it has to do with a couple of things. You know, it's very difficult to control your low frequencies when compared to high frequencies, and there are room modes, standing waves, a couple of other things. I'll advise that you check out Michael Curtis on YouTube. He's an expert on sound system setup, especially managing low end. So I'll put a link to maybe like 2 of his videos for you to start with in the description, so you can actually check out how to do a couple of those things. Thank you very much, guys, for seeing this video and for sending in your questions. If you have extra questions, you can go ahead and leave them in the comment section, and hopefully we can do a part 2 of this video. I want to thank Muyiwa. Muyiwa is the guy that shot me this video. He's a YouTuber as well, does lifestyle and travel video. I'll put a link to his content and his video as well in the description. Thank you very much. I'll see you in the next video.